In this video, we're showing you the process of how we make simple plaques in wood using a scroll saw. So we've got three different designs. Same process as we normally do. We start off by sticking our designs onto the wood itself. If you're interested in how we develop our designs, when it comes to the text, one method that you can use is to go on your Office program on your computer. So if you use things like Microsoft Office or LibreOffice, whatever you use, go on those programs, get that text then, whatever font that you like, the size that you like, get the format as you want it, print it off, and you can use that as a template. Same whatever you're using things like Photoshop, you can use the text programs from those as well. So you'll see that we stick the design onto the wood itself and then go on to drilling our holes ready for doing our pierce work. The smaller holes that we've drilled for our pierce work have been done using a hand drill. The larger holes I've done with a pillar drill. For any of you who are beginners, the pillar drill in many ways is better because it's more accurate. You get those holes nice and square on. So if you're wondering between the two methods, which is better, that one there would be my own preference. You'll notice that I sand as well the back of the wood after I drilled those holes. The reason for this, you get a little raised bump as the drill bit goes through the back of the wood. And if you sand that back down, it makes the wood nice and flat, and the scroll sawing then is easier to do. So from there, what we're doing in this demonstration is to show you the real process that we go through. So on other videos, I've rearranged things so you can see one project at a time. But in this one, I've demonstrated the process as we would film it from start to finish. So once those pierce work holes have been done, we sand the back down and we're on to our scroll saw. The order that I tend to do things in, we do all of that pierce work first of all. So all of your internal cuts. The blade, for those who are interested, we've mentioned it a number of times before, it's that Nikwa number 9 reverse tooth blades. So we take out all of those internal cuts for our tank design for our first plaque, and then afterwards we cut the outline of our tank. Reason we're using this design, my son, that is basically what he's interested in at the moment, so it's a plaque for him, so I thought that would be the thing that he would appreciate the most. Once we finish our tank design, we then go on to cutting out the name that will also go on our first plaque. So the first part of the process is to do that internal cut, the O of Nico's name. We then do all of our cuts around the outside on the top in the one direction. The same on the bottom, cutting in the one direction. I then turn the item around and cut everything back in the other direction. That's a method then that I use to get nice, sharp, clean finishes using our Hegner scroll saw. So we're on to our second plaque now, and this is for my youngest son. His interests are farming, tractors, tractor Ted, things like that. So that's why we've decided to use a tractor design. Same as with the tank, we start off doing that pierce work. Do all those internal cuts, cut it all out before we get started on our outline. Now the wood that we use for this one is some recycled mahogany that we had available. I've chosen this particular one for the job because this particular piece, I could see that it wasn't going to be as suitable for the hand carving. Within this demonstration then, we have one piece of hand carving later on in the demonstration we're going to be doing. And so I selected a slightly different mahogany that will be more suitable for hand carving for this particular piece. So once we've done that base work, you can see us doing the outline of our tractor. You just cut again everything in the one direction and then match it up in the other direction afterwards. With the name for my youngest son, again, we've done those internal cuts first. The same process where I cut everything in the one direction on the top and the bottom, and then afterwards we cut back in the other direction to get those nice, sharp, clean cuts on the finish. Now we're on to the third plaque, because as I mentioned, we do all of our work on the scroll saw in one go before we move on to the other parts of the process. And this plaque then is going to be a present for my wife. So we start off by cutting her name out, doing those internal cuts first, and then going around the outline. Her favourite flower is a simple daisy. So I thought, right, that'd be suitable for including on the design. Different to the tank and the tractor, because instead of using internal cuts to do our detail on the daisy, we're going to do some hand carving, and that will create the effect of the daisy instead of those internal cuts that we've used on the other designs. So same again, we just cut that outline on our scroll saw, and then we go over to doing our hand carving for all of the detail on our flower. For those of you who are interested in the process of hand carving, you'll see we secure it in the vise so it's not moving around. We then do our stop cuts, so cutting down into the wood, and then afterwards we add our detail. Once we've finished with our scroll saw and our hand carving, we then sand everything down. That's where we can get a nice smooth finish. Just taking as well that little bit that you can have, that little edge that can be left after using the scroll saw. We just take that away so we get a nice smooth finish on all of the edges of our scroll saw and hand carved items. We now go on to our bandsaw. The bandsaw, it is quicker than working with the scroll saw in terms of the speed that it cuts at, as a general rule, but it does tend to leave more saw marks. So because we're using our bandsaw with a thicker blade, it does leave saw marks. So the way that we get rid of these is once we've finished on our bandsaw, we go across to our belt sander and we smooth out those lines, sand away the lines, smooth everything over so we get a nice, smooth, quality finish. We start off with quite a coarse sandpaper on our belt sander, something like a P60, and then we go through the different grades, so go into higher grades, finishing on around about a P150, so we get a finer finish. Afterwards then, we can go on to our hand sanding and our hand finishing. Onto the hand finishing, and we're adding 3 coats of shellac sanding sealer, rubbing it down in between each coat. After this then, we add that finishing layer of beeswax mixed with linseed oil. Now when we're applying our shellac and our oil and all the work that we do, as much as you can, you want to be trying to work with the grain. So you're applying it in the direction of the grain. So with the different items that we've made here, with the exception of the daisy and the backgrounds, the grain is running horizontally. So we're applying our shellac in the direction that grain is running into. We finish off then by drilling a hole in the back of the plaque. So that means if you want to, it can be hung on the wall using a nail or a screw. The final part of making simple plaques like this in wood is to put the project together. So you just apply the super glue to the back, line it up as you want it, and stick the designs onto the background itself. So there you go, a simple process. Hopefully that video is useful. Let us know in the comments section if you've got any questions about making plaques in wood or any other projects. If you've enjoyed that, don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so you know when we upload another video. And as we always say, thank you again for watching.